Sean was walking around. He had his backpack.
Yeah.
And there was this fella just like following him everywhere. And he finally like cornered him before he tried to go into the auditorium door. And Sean turned around and he goes, "Hey, bud, do you have cancer?" And the guy goes, "No." And he goes, "Cheer up. It's not that bad." And he slapped him on the shoulder. And he walked in the room. And I was like, yeah, that's right. It's not that bad.
All right, welcome to True Talk. Got a special guest with me today, all the way from the other side of the country, right? My man Trey Honeycutt.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you, dude.
About as far from California as I could be, but I love it here.
It's been a while since you've been out here, huh?
I know. My 7th time in Connecticut, but the thing I thought when I got here was it feels like home.
Yeah. And you just missed out on some really cold weather. So you came on like one of the warmest days we've had this winter. So
yeah, it snowed here. It kind of freaked me out.
Yeah.
And then I was Ubering over here, and they had these trucks with like these metal sleds on the front.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is
Called
that
a plow.
thing? Yeah. What a great invention.
You guys don't have those in California?
No, I've never seen one of those. Yeah, I guess it's to move the snow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, whoever thought of that deserves an award.
Yeah, dude. No, we've had them for a while. So
okay.
What part of California you live in?
Victorville, California.
Okay, you still in Victorville?
Yeah, so it's halfway between LA and Vegas.
Got it. And you've been with us now since almost day one, right?
Almost.
Yeah.
9 or 10 months in. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking earlier. You joined a company, right, that we all used to work at. Like, was it like the day after we left?
The day before.
Day before.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a Thursday night meeting.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. And there was 100 people at that, and then they had the big regional event the next day, and there was 12.
Like, where'd everybody go?
I was like, wow.
Yeah. But you stayed there. Right?
I did. Yep.
Did you come from a sales background or no?
I sold water softeners and and cutlery and stuff did in-home sales.
Got it.
On paper, it would have looked like I would have killed it right out of the gate, but this was a different animal. So
yeah,
I did learn perseverance in those deals, though.
I bet. How long did you do that for?
Oh, geez. I sold water softeners for 4 years.
Okay.
I sold knives for a couple years.
Got it. What made you get new insurance?
I did a lot of multi-level marketing stuff, and I was just tired of like going to the grocery store and everybody running from me.
Oh, you were the guy that had like a new deal every 2 weeks?
Dude. And it was just, I like, why is Mary hiding behind the oranges?
Right. You're like, oh, damn, it's Trey again.
So, and the thing that was attractive to me about insurance was I didn't have to recruit. I could make a living, selling insurance.
Right.
And once I figured out that you could sell a product for 80 and make a big commission, 80 a month and make a big commission.
Yeah.
Typically in sales, if you sold a product for 1,000, you'd make 100,
right.
So
right.
Just the idea of the commission you could make by actually putting somebody in a better position. And the fact that there was leads, I didn't have to go out and drum up business. All I had to do was help people that were actually looking for insurance coverage. That was a game changer for me. And that's really what attracted me to it.
Did you do a lot of door-to-door before this?
Not so much. No, I called referrals. A lot of it was referrals.
Yeah.
Or
it was a grind.
Yeah, or leads that we created like at home shows and things like that.
Got it. So you joined this company day before we left. You stayed there for about 10 months almost, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you know Andrew at the time?
The meeting. The first meeting I went to, Andrew did the meeting. That's how I met him. So he gave me his business card and said, "Hey, if you ever need applications, call me."
Yep.
So that's how I happened to have his phone number.
Got it. And how did you do in sales, those 10 months you were at the other company?
I struggled at first
Yeah.
Because what drove me crazy was the person that was coaching me hadn't sold in such a long time.
Got it.
And so I'd have several scenarios where I was, in front of the client and they should have bought it, but the advice they would give me was like something that was.
So they didn't know how to coach you.
They didn't have a clue how to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
But fortunately, they did put me with somebody that did sell a lot, and that helped.
Yeah.
I think I was able to help 20 families in a month, probably by my 5th month or so.
Okay. And did you know about us from the get-go? Like, obviously, we laughed, so I'm sure it was a big talk, but did you know? What did you know about Family First Life early on?
all I know is from whatever Google search I did, I
Yeah.
could find the conference calls online, and I started listening to them.
Okay. So you were listening to our training when you were there.
Yes, yeah.
Is that what helped you?
That is
20
totally
families
what,
a month?
that's totally what helped me. Yeah,
That's some shit.
exactly. It was pretty wild. Yeah,
Yep.
you know, like just the structure, taking control in the home, having enough appointments,
Yeah.
being able to shake off the ones that didn't buy and not let it get to you for the rest of the time. The mindset stuff, I got so much from it.
Yeah. What made you seek out our training, though? Did someone else tell you about it, or?
Well, I had to find a way to make a living some way.
Yeah.
So I just started, doing Google searches.
Yeah.
And I'd heard the name because of the rumors and stuff.
Right.
So that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
I didn't really care where it came from. I just needed
Right,
help.
you're trying to get better.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, we were definitely open conference call back then. We didn't have all the studio,
Right.
podcasts that was like you'd call in and listen.
They were just phone calls, and I would listen to. I'd pick the one we did on Friday, and I'd listen all week as I drove around to my appointments.
Dude, we used to say that. It started off as a joke. Like, I bet there's other companies using our training. And then we would get people that would, reach out to us after they've been listening to our training, and they're like, I want to join you guys. Like, well, how'd you find out about us? Oh, I've been using your training for months.
Yeah.
Even in, like, other industries, which you're like, oh, shit, maybe we should, like, password protect this. But it was like a recruiting tool at the time.
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah. How long did you listen to our training before you even thought about joining us?
Probably 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got tired of competing with Family First Life.
Yeah.
Because I thought the leads I had were pretty exclusive. I didn't realize that people could request, coverage several different ways.
Right, yeah.
So I would get to houses, and the FFL guy would have been there,
Yeah.
and I couldn't replace what they wrote.
Right.
And then if I got there first, I was like, yes, I got there first. And then like a week later, they'd replace my
Get them
stuff.
something better.
So my number one thing when I started was like, hey, if I work with you, you can't replace my stuff, right?
Right.
And then Andrew was like, yeah, that's right. I can't.
So was
replace
Andrew one of them that you were running into?
Yeah. But when the first time I called him up, I was like, hey, do you remember me? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, I just want to let you know, I sat down with so-and-so last week, and I didn't replace your policy because I know you're struggling.
Andrew said that to you?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, shout out to Andrew.
I was like,
dude.
thanks, man.
Yeah.
So what about the other guys that replace all my stuff?
Yeah,
Can
exactly.
you talk to
Can
them?
you stop them? So was that what finally made you make the move?
Yeah,
And did
that's
you reach
totally
out to
was.
Andrew?
Yeah, directly.
What was that like?
Well, man, I don't know how much of the whole story. So the first thing he told me was he said, I can't recruit you.
Oh, yeah, because at the time.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to get like I quit the other place like a long time ago. He's
Right.
like, well, I can't recruit you. I go, can I ask you questions? He goes, I'll call you back. So he called an attorney, and
Yeah,
he's like,
find out what he can say.
my attorney said you could ask me questions.
Yeah.
So that's how the conversation
Got
started.
it. What was that transition like for you going from there to here?
It was great.
Yeah.
What was really interesting in the beginning was the amount of leads that just I got a lot of Andrew's old leads.
Yeah.
So I was just running around running those in the beginning, and it was such a high amount that my first 6 weeks I helped 45 families.
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
Wait, how many families?
My
46?
first 8 weeks I helped 45 families.
Wow.
So yeah, first 60 days, and that was all off of Andrew's old stuff.
Yeah.
And he closed most of them, but
Right.
it opened my eyes to the fact that one of the biggest sales I made in that process was this family that I got the appointment at 9:30 at night.
Mhm.
They both worked full time. They'd been on a vacation, the month before when when Andrew first got the lead, and I showed up 30 minutes late at 10 p.m. thinking they weren't going to be there, and they let me in. The kids were eating dinner at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And I wrote 2 big policies at that house.
Yeah.
And when I walked out of that, I realized anybody would have sold this one. Like, these people actually wanted it. They were super hard to get a hold of, but that's because they were really, really busy.
Right.
So my mindset on, calling and dialing and who doesn't answer and who it's not a good time for,
Yeah.
that just means like they work and they have a job and they're super stressed out.
Right.
And they
right.
probably make more money than the person that I could call
So
that
just
answers.
that appointment alone kind of helps you shift your mindset.
Yeah, totally changed everything.
Yeah.
Yep.
And now, you've been with us since almost day one, going on 10 years now, right?
Yeah.
We said October of 14.
October 14.
Yep, so it's nine and some change years right now. You've seen a lot.
Yeah.
You've had some ups, you've had some downs, everything in the middle. You said something to me a while back, years ago, I think, when we did one of these podcasts. You said, I quit FFL more than anyone.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Did you actually quit?
Well, there's two things you have to have: a good sense of humor and a bad memory. So
I like that.
there were several times I quit, like on a Wednesday night,
Yeah.
but when I woke up Thursday, I forgot. So, I'd halfway through the day, I'd be like, isn't there something I was supposed to do?
Yeah.
After I set like 4 appointments, but there's something I was going to do today. What was that? I did learn in that process that I saw from the beginning, I saw a lot of people who on paper looked like they would be the best thing since sliced bread, who definitely got a faster start than me.
Yeah.
And I'd see those people make permanent decisions off of temporary emotions. They would just get in their own head, and it would just be an all or nothing. This is the end. This is the line in the sand. I didn't do a whole lot of that. I was always like, well, it'll be better tomorrow.
Got it.
And, Sean would always say, it's not just going to get better.
Right.
And that's true. But if you're actively moving, it's okay to say it's going to be better tomorrow, because the opposite of that is just to be like, well, this is it. It's either now or never. And then a lot of people, it becomes never, because they just get hyper emotional over something that if you just give it enough time, it's really not that big of a deal anyway.
Right. So on those moments, like the Wednesday, for example, when you're like, dude, I quit. What was it that kind of put you over the edge on that day?
Yeah, there's probably a lot of it's just people problems.
Yeah.
Communication issues with people.
Yeah.
Rejection, people canceling, chargebacks, being misunderstood. Going out to do a bunch of appointments and getting a bunch of no-shows.
Got it.
The stress of a lead bill. Like you have a lead bill, and then you have to make a sale. And the thing that was most frustrating, what's interesting in this business is like, so I went to this, I don't want to call it a marriage counseling, because it wasn't marriage counseling, but it was a premarital counseling for when me and my wife got married. And the pastor did this illustration. This was before we even got married. And he said, you're going to learn a lot in life from conflict. Like conflict is going to be your best teacher.
Yeah.
And he goes, here's what conflict is in marriage. And then I'll show you with my hands, but he's like, your wife is here and you're here. And then your wife is like, come here. And then you're like, no. And then she's like, please. And then you're like, no. And so now what people start to do is they start to move closer together. And he goes, and everybody thinks that's good, but that's what we call compromise. And compromise is bad, because compromise is like a bridge. Yeah. You wouldn't drive on a compromised bridge. Right. He goes, what you want to be able to do is negotiate. So if your wife's here and she's like, come here, or you're like, come here, and she goes, no, and you're like, please, and she's like, no, then the question you should ask yourself is, I wonder what I have to do to get her to come over here. Or why am I taking it so personal that she doesn't want to come to me?
Right.
So the way you bridge the gap is you walk over to her, So that was, for me, the question that I was asking myself when things didn't go right. What was so frustrating in this business was just the understanding that, like, I would run into this conflict or these objections or these things would keep coming up. Yeah. And the thing that was so frustrating was the fact that I hadn't learned enough to overcome that yet, even though I knew that I should have learned enough to know how to handle that objection that I keep getting 11 times.
Got it.
So the thing that I understood was, most of the time the person I was mad at was the disappointment in myself for not doing what I knew I should have done.
Yeah. So you're kind of projecting that on whatever the case, the leads, the client, this lead bill, these chargebacks, instead of going, hey, what's Trey doing?
Yeah. So 100% personal responsibility for where I was. And it was nobody else's fault, and nobody did me wrong. And Andrew wasn't mean to me. And, so-and-so didn't hurt my feelings. And maybe they meant to hurt my feelings, but maybe they're having a bad day. It's okay. Yeah. I have bad days too. Yep. And just, having a good sense of humor and a bad memory. Yeah. Like not holding grudges. Right. Movement, continuing to get up and just move. Yeah.
When did you get to that point, Trey? Because, I mean, you've had these, struggles at times, right?
Yeah.
Like, wasn't just like one day it switched, or was it? When did you realize, like, you know what? A lot of this shit is on me.
Yeah. I think I had that the whole time.
Yeah.
But so there was ups and downs. I think what I learned to do is just not be down as long. You know?
Okay.
But I always knew that if I took personal responsibility, I could take personal responsibility for my attitude.
Yeah.
I could take personal responsibility for the people I listen to. I guarded my associations a lot.
Yeah.
That helped me. If I was thinking a certain way, I would ask myself, why do I think that?
Yeah.
What is it really that bad? Like, just perspective. I remember the first conference. Sean was walking around. He had his backpack.
Yeah.
And there was this fella just like following him everywhere. And he finally like cornered him before he tried to go into the auditorium door. And Sean turned around and he goes, "Hey, bud, do you have cancer?" And the guy goes, "No." And he goes, "Cheer up. It's not that bad." And he slapped him on the shoulder and he walked to the room. And I was like, yeah, that's right. It's not that bad. It's like, his client canceled. It's about as bad as it really gets. It's never, Andrew would always tell me it's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is either.
100%.
And
this thing with the roller coaster, riding the highs is just as bad as riding the lows.
That's right.
Now, did you struggle more with the lows, or did you also get kind of messed up when you got too high?
Yeah, I struggled with the thing that I learned from Andrew was the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he showed up and just did the activity, whether it was going good or whether it was going bad.
Yep.
And I'd never seen that, because everything I'd ever witnessed in my life in sales was like people would make these big breakthrough, commissions.
Yeah.
And you'd think, oh my God, that person's killing it. And then they would go on vacation to Bora Bora. Like that's typical. And all I saw with Andrew was he had great weeks and he had weeks that weren't so great, but he was just really, really consistent.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to change like his work week.
Right.
It was very soothing.
Yeah.
It was easy to be around.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't.
Was it odd to you though? Because you were so used to the
super
opposite.
odd.
Yeah.
Super odd. That was. I still think it's the strangest thing.
Right.
Because most people would base their success on how much money was in the bank or wasn't in the bank. But I really think he never really. I don't think he ever really paid too much attention to that.
Just looked at the activity and that was it.
He really just enjoyed the work.
Yeah.
And it was attractive, and I wanted to model that.
Right.
Where
are you at now with that? How do you feel about riding that roller coaster now?
I feel great about it now. Yeah. I've.
You haven't quit in a while, right?
No, not in a while. Well, no. I mean, you get frustrated. Here's the other thing I learned. When you get frustrated, it's okay to take a break.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's okay to just before you throw it all in, how about you just take a walk?
Yeah.
Like, we don't, if you don't know what to say to that person when you call them back, just wait a little while.
Right.
It's okay. Not everything is a level 10 of urgency.
Sure.
There are things that are super urgent, but if you make everything urgent, it's hard to realize what's really urgent.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything's a level 10 on the scope of needs and that type of thing. So.
You mentioned association earlier, and I remember you a while back talking to me about this whole feeling of quitting, but then you'd show up to a meeting.
Right.
And you'd be done, but you're at the meeting. And then by the time the meeting's over, you're like, I'm ready
the best
again.
day to go, yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's the biggest, if I had any advice for anybody, it's just this idea of staying close to the fire.
Yeah.
Especially with telesales. Telesales is the best thing that's ever happened in some ways. And in some ways, it's created obstacles for people because we don't get around folks as much.
Right.
I remember we did the summer sales conferences last year, and we hadn't done one for a while in the LA area. And the people that showed up to that, Hall of Fame producers, people that were on my, my FFL wall of these are the greatest, they'd show up, and at the end they were just like, man, I needed to come to this.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, if somebody that really knows how to do this and does this as a profession and makes a living at it and has been highly successful, if they have that need to associate and to be around other people, what about the guy that started a month ago that's just seen some folks on Zoom? So my whole goal in life was, I used to go to the office and dial with Andrew every day. I'd show up every day in the office. Mm-hmm. And even when I wasn't killing it, the thing I learned to do is just not be a thorn in his side. So I just minded my business and dialed. If he was dialing, I didn't bother him,
Right.
and I just hung out because
Yeah.
I needed the energy. I needed somewhere to go. I needed a place to belong and feel like I was part of it. And we all have that opportunity with the different lock-ins and things
Yeah.
that happen around the country, the Zoom dials.
I mean, the whole reason you came out here was for a lock-in, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How many people did you guys have up there this week?
25 to 30.
Yeah.
And, you know, New England doesn't get enough credit, but the amount of Hall of Fame producers within just a short
Sure.
drive from here is pretty staggering.
Yeah.
And there are some insurance selling machines up here.
Right.
And, you know, I heard some people make some closes yesterday, and it wasn't closes. It was just the way they communicated it. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm listening to Marisa Maggio, right? She's talking to this client, and the client said something that I think is kind of meant to be like kind of insulting.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what did they, you know, like,
Yeah.
like I can't
She's
believe.
like, give me that phone.
Yeah. And then she just stayed so level-headed and
Yeah.
nice, and just like turned it around, but stern, but nice. And I'm like, wow, that was really good. And
Yeah.
then the lady ended up getting it. So it's just really cool to see people that have honed their craft, that have gotten really good at it, that have learned the skill set to do this at a high level consistently. And if you're just by yourself and your own problems, sitting by yourself at your house, it's hard to see that sometimes.
You're top producer, Hall of Fame. How many times?
Never as a
You're in
producer.
Hall of Fame?
No, I'm gonna do it.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it this year.
You are.
I
I put you on the spot. I
dude,
wasn't even planned.
My whole goal in life is
Yep.
to be the first integrity partner that wasn't Hall of Fame as a producer to actually become Hall of Fame.
Let's
as a
do it
producer.
this year, dude.
I'm motivated to do it because
Yep.
I have like this chip on my shoulder.
What's the most
like
families you ever helped in a year?
202.
Okay.
But I worked for Andrew full time as a employee.
Oh, that was the year you worked
during
full-time.
those times.
Got
yeah.
it. Got it.
So,
Well, shit, if you can do that working as an employee full time, why can't you help 400?
dude,
or
that's
more?
what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You know, and with this phone thing, see
Yep.
what I used to always say, driving around doing in-homes was like, I would have been a Hall of Fame producer if I had a driver.
Yeah.
Because I would just get lost going places. Like my number one objection was like, why didn't you
Trying to
come?
find the
Like I'm
house.
still trying to find it, you know?
Yeah.
So shoot, with the phone thing, I could do
Yep.
that. I
Yeah.
really can. I can't get lost on the road. So.
And you're fully telesales now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How was that transition?
It was hard.
Yeah.
Because okay, when you do in-home, like you like if I get rejected, I can drive for 30 minutes before I get rejected again.
Right.
But like in-home, you could get rejected like 7 times in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you get halfway through the
Oh,
presentation.
so you like that break? Like if something
Yeah.
you kind of need some time to process it, get your mind right.
Dude, it would help me a lot.
Yeah.
And there's more rejection on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
There's more no-shows. There's more people that have trust issues. So, but what you got to understand, here's how I learned to really think about it. If I was spending 40 hours a week before setting appointments to talk to people about insurance and talking to people about insurance, then I would issue X amount. Well, if I did the same thing on the phone, I'll issue X amount.
Mm-hmm.
It's just on the phone, a lot of the people that, you know, don't give you their social, or they don't give you their bank info, or they hang up in the middle, those are the people that you would have drove to their house, they wouldn't answer the door.
Correct.
You know?
Yep.
So you just got to understand that was happening anyway, except now you
It's
aren't
great perspective.
having to drive to see them. So if I just put the time in, and that really is the key to telesales, is just simply putting the time in.
Yeah.
And then from a building perspective, what I realized is like the concept that allowed me to build the whole time was this idea of let's go do it. Not you go do it, not I'll go do it. It's let's go do it. And telesales is really conducive to that, because you could recruit a ton of people in your backyard.
Right.
You could have 40, 50 agents in your backyard, wherever you are. If you're in Rockford, Illinois, you can get 40 people in Rockford, Illinois to do telesales with you.
Yeah.
With the amount of time that you're spending on the phone, and then everybody does it together.
Yeah.
And it makes it fun. So
integrity partner, Hall of Fame manager.
yes,
Right? You flew all the way from California to come here for a lock-in.
yes.
Why, and what did you get out of it?
Because I needed to be around people that were selling.
Yeah.
I was hitting the wall as far as telesales goes,
Oh,
where I
okay.
was getting objections on the phone, and
Yeah.
my schedule isn't as tight as it needs to be, and my lead strategy maybe needed some tweaking. So I wanted to get around people that were doing it at a high level.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I wanted to build relationships with people that I work with.
Mm.
It's super important.
Yeah.
Like, you know, FFL is the people that I do life with.
Right.
You know, I'm 10 years older than I was when I started.
Yeah.
And everyone here has had such a big impact on my life, in so many different ways. This is where I do life. So
Right.
I just wanted to extend that and, you know, be around folks and let them know that I was there to help, and
Yeah.
I was willing to go serve them and help any way I could. And I'm not ashamed to try to learn from somebody that, you know, Aphrodite, that's an agent on my team. And I watched her make 3 sales yesterday.
Yeah.
And she got all the way through to the point where I would usually get screwed up. And she looked down at her script and she read it. And I'm thinking, I should read the freaking script. You know, like, really, that's all you got to do is read the script.
Right.
And I think the guy probably knew she was reading it. But this is somebody that helps 30, 40 families every month.
Yeah.
She still has to look at the script. You know, she had people when she was dialing, like she'd get, you know, 10 minutes into it and it's like, hey, this really isn't going to work. And she'd get off the phone with the person and call the next one. And I just thought, man, that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You know? So
What was the biggest takeaway you had?
The fact that if people just really put the time in, it'll work.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a matter of doing the work and managing your emotions.
Yep.
You know, not making these general sweeping generalizations.
Right.
You know, like these leads are bad, or this type of lead's no good, or these clients in this place don't buy, or I don't want to talk to anybody over the age of this because they're all going to be guaranteed issue. Like there's all these things that we tend to do based on a limited amount of data.
Right.
You know, and if you can just keep that perspective and understand if you're just talking to enough people that have requested the help, you're going to find the ones. We used to talk about the 25% that were laydowns. Well, those are there in telesales too.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as you're putting the activity in, you'll find those ones.
Right.
You know, you just got to understand that the ones that aren't, you don't have to die on that hill. Like you can just let that
know when
go
to cut
and keep
bait.
moving. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
That was, and I've never done telesales, so I'll never speak on it. But when I was in the in-home, when I went from the point where I was okay to really good, one of the things I learned was when to walk out of a house.
Yeah.
I learned how 5 minutes ago, you know what? He ain't buying life insurance today.
Right.
Let me get up and go to my next appointment. Let me go do some door knocks. Let me call someone, because early on, Trey, I'd be there. I'd be so damn stubborn. I'm in your house 3 hours trying to sell you because I'm like, oh, he's going to. Meanwhile, my dumb ass is missing 3 other appointments, right?
Right.
So when I finally learned to, like, dude, just grab my stuff and let's go.
Yep.
Have a nice day.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd imagine on telesales, same deal. You got to know, because you're on the phone. They say they talk to you forever.
Right.
And it ain't going anywhere. Know when to cut bait and go to your next appointment.
Yeah. I was talking to Jamie Cheerio.
Yep.
And, he qualified for the producer cruise, and he told me he said something that was so interesting. He goes, producers don't keep secrets from each other. Top producers, they share everything. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. They don't have a scarcity mindset. They'll share everything.
Yeah.
And that's what's been so neat about going to these events and these lock-ins is, like yesterday, one of the agents had this, I thought it was an iPad, but it was some other sort of contraption that they made all their notes on. I'm like, I'm gonna buy that. I bought it on Amazon, like right there. Nice. Like, that's so cool. Like it hooks up to your Google Drive and just the different CRM systems that people use that will follow up with people and organize things. And when you plug into this stuff, people share everything. They aren't. Nobody hides nothing. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like if you're struggling, what do I do? Well, have you been to a lock-in?
Right.
No, I haven't. Then why not? Right, like your point, get around the heat.
Yeah.
You want to learn how to do something, you get around the people that are actually in anything you're doing, whether it's sports, whether it's another industry, whether you're learning a trade. I went to a trade school. I learned carpentry. I learned from a guy who was in the industry for 30 plus years. They didn't set me up with another student to teach me.
Right.
They didn't give me a book and go learn it on your own.
Yep.
Just like same thing here. We've been around for over 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
We have plenty of people that know how to do what we do at a high level. They're out there. If you're not getting better, it's your own fault.
And the thing is that the true masters at this, the thing you learn more from what they don't do than what they do. Like, shout out to Juan Franco. He did the SRS call. Everybody should be getting on those every Thursday.
Yeah, definitely. And Juan's a beast. Dude,
he did his presentation on there, and I am really good at confusing people when it comes to IULs. Like, I'm a master at it. And when I watched his, I was like, this actually makes a lot of sense. Like he's so intentional about how he doesn't confuse people. That, you know, it's like my son, I remember he was pitching in baseball.
Yeah.
And we took him to the so in Victorville where I live, there's Bucky Buckles, and Bucky was the closing pitcher for Oklahoma in the 1994 College World Series.
Okay.
You know, and so he's like the hometown hero,
Yeah.
and he does these pitching classes. Well, you know, my son, he's in Little League, and he's got 100 different people telling him how to pitch. We're watching YouTube videos, practicing with a balled up pair of socks, and we're doing all this stuff. And I remember I took him to see Bucky, and Bucky stood him up. He said, "Throw it over there, throw it over there." He watches him. He goes, "Okay, back up some. All right, do this. Stand up straight, do that." And originally, when my son went to go throw it, it would have been equivalent to pitching it to first base. That's how far off it was.
Okay.
So within 30 minutes, with just a few adjustments, and none of the stuff we saw in any intense YouTube video training, a few adjustments, he was throwing strikes.
Wow.
And so that's when I realized when you're a true master at something, it's not necessarily all the things you do. It's just the stuff you don't do.
Yeah.
It's not overcomplicating it.
Yep. That's huge. You mentioned earlier, you said manage your emotions and your work ethic, pretty much, which boils down to attitude, activity.
Yeah.
Two things. There's a lot has changed in this industry since I first got a license in 09.
Right.
We had paper apps. Now everything's e-app, instant decision, daily pay, all this stuff. Those two things have not changed.
That's right.
Attitude, activity. You got to have both, right?
Right.
What are some things you do to maintain your mindset now?
I exercise. Exercise is super important in the mornings. We have a group. A bunch of us have a text group that we send our workout pictures to.
Yeah.
Dom and Zach and Grady and a bunch of us are in there.
Yeah.
And I wake up really early. I listen to phone scripts that I record.
Yeah.
So like I record it myself reading the phone script, and I'll listen to that when I work out. I know that sounds totally mundane, but it helps. It helps me get the wording down.
Yeah.
You know, I read something positive every day.
Yeah.
And I go to work. I go to the office. My goal is to be in the office by 7:00.
Yeah.
And it helps because I can't do it from home. You know, I fell into the trap of trying to do that for a while.
Yeah.
Because it was telesales.
How long did you try to do it from home for?
Well, I'm going to tell you a couple months, but it might have been a year.
Okay.
You know, if I'm being really honest, a lot longer than I should have.
Yeah.
And I thought I was being productive, and you know, I thought about the business a lot, but but you're a lot more productive when you can't just like
There's that activity part we're talking about.
The activity part, right?
Yep.
Thinking about the business and doing the business are two totally different things.
Absolutely.
Now you do need to spend time thinking about the business, which is why you should wake up early.
Right.
You know, and I think one of the things I learned a long time ago about maintaining a good attitude is like when you wake up, like don't just check your email right away. Like give yourself some time to, you know, be with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, get focused and write down your goals. I write down my goals every day. You know, what my plan is, what I want to accomplish. I journal. I think about things. I write it on paper.
Yeah.
That helps me a ton because it's cathartic.
Is this a newer how long you've been doing
I've
this
always
type of
done it.
stuff? Okay.
Yeah. The biggest growth spurts I've ever had in FFL literally came from a lot of journaling in the morning.
Really?
Just writing out my thoughts because it would give me clarity.
Yeah.
And it allowed me to let go of stuff, you know, and not hold on to stuff. And then I'd get out of the habit of doing it, and then I'd get in this slump, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to doing that. So that's one of the things if I ever get off track, I get back to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you start coming back to the office?
3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
what's that done for you?
Well, I've definitely increased my recruiting.
Yeah.
I'm actually selling. I went from not selling to actually making sales.
Yeah. How many families you helped last month?
In February, it'll be 9.
9, okay.
But, man, telesales is a different thing.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And I tell you what, in March, it's going to be 30. It really will be.
Yeah, I believe it.
Because I got my lead strategy right now. I have an idea of what it is I'm trying to do. I know the amount of time that I need to put on the phone. I have somebody helping me set appointments, but rather than like showing up and just getting no-showed to all those, when they no-show me, then I'm dialing out.
Yeah.
I've got some accountability around me on a Zoom live dials where people know that that's what my plan is.
Right.
So I told a bunch of people like, hey, this is my plan. When I get no-showed, I'm not going to turn my camera off. I'm going to dial out.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they really aren't paying attention. And I turned my camera off, and then I got like 4 texts. Hey, I thought you said, oh, crap.
Yeah.
Well, I was
that's key because, you know, a lot of people have goals, but they keep them to themselves, right? And unless you make your goals public or share them with somebody else, like, you're the only one holding yourself accountable to these goals.
Right.
What good is, like, you're the reason you're in whatever spot you're in right now anyway. So, like, if you're the only one holding yourself accountable, how are you going to, what's going to motivate you to achieve them?
Dude, that's been the hardest part is I don't, like I say I want it, but
Yeah.
then I know once I put it out there that people are going to hold me accountable.
Yep.
And then I start thinking about all the stuff I could be doing. And then I'm like, so yeah, I'll put it out there. That
Yeah.
is.
It makes big I mean, to your point, and they're calling you, like, dude, why aren't you on camera? And you're
Yep.
like, oh, shit, I did say that, right?
But you know what it always comes back to? If you really focused on 40 hours of actual focused work.
Right.
I remember the first time, like we had this event one time in California, and Sean put me on the spot, and he goes, hey, when you recruit somebody and they want to know how much they need to work, like what do you tell them? And I was like, oh, well, I just tell them they need to run appointments like 2-3 days a week. Because that's what Andrew had been in the business for a long time.
Right.
He developed that skill to be able to do that. Right.
Yeah.
And he goes, what are you talking about? I don't have any money. You work every day. And I was like, wow, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But then he broke it down further, and he goes, listen, if you could just focus on working 40 hours, like working, because I was always like, what do you track? Do you track appointments? Do you track issue paid? Do you track, your submit every week? Like, you just track actually focusing on setting appointments to talk to people about insurance and talking to people about insurance for 40 hours.
Yep.
And let people see you do it. That's one of the best recruiting tips that I have for folks is do it with people. Let them see you do it.
Right.
It's hard for it not to eventually work.
Yeah. It's not like, you're not saying don't focus on your numbers, but dude, I got people that spend 40 hours a week looking at their numbers.
Right.
And this one's off, and you're missing one policy. How many times do you get an email about like one policy? I'm just like, dude, for the love of God, just go sell another one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we'll figure it all out at the end, dude. I promise you, when it comes to bonuses and stuff, we'll do our due diligence. But right now, it not hitting the leaderboard today, how's that affecting you?
Right. Exactly.
What is that doing for your business by one policy missing on your leaderboard?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Pick up the phone and write another one.
People major in all the small stuff or minor in the whatever it is, whatever the saying is. That's what happens.
And I love when they go, the numbers are off. I go, yeah, I know. You know how I know? There's like 20,000 agents and millions of dollars of insurance being sold every month. I'm sure they're not going to be 100% accurate. I don't know a company that has them 100% accurate at this level.
Well, what was always funny is, people would be like, well, I would have issued this much, but I had post dates.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Giordano had post dates.
Yeah.
He still issued a bunch.
Exactly.
Like they have post dates too. You're not
Right.
the only one.
Yeah.
So
you would have issued this if you just would have issued that, if you would have worked more. But to your point, if you would have put in the 40.
Yep.
Put in time, and that's that. And Sean's saying, I remember working with him day one. It was just every day you were doing something for your business.
Right.
You're dialing today for tomorrow. You're dialing today for later this afternoon. You're recruiting this day. You're doing a meet. Back then there were opportunity meetings, hotspot, whatever you want to call them. But we were doing something every single day for the business. It was way over 40 hours.
Yeah.
That's why it's a joke when I hear like, oh yeah, it's about 15, 20 hours a week.
Right.
And that's fine if you are where you want to be.
Right.
If you're hitting all your goals, you're happy, you don't have financial issues. But I don't know anyone that works 20 hours a week in this business and doesn't have financial issues,
Right.
aren't where they want to be from a production standpoint, from an agency standpoint. But a lot of guys focus on the wrong stuff.
Right.
To your point, just focus on the activity. Make sure your attitude is right while you're doing that.
Right.
And the numbers will work themselves out.
Amen to that.
Well, I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, not that you came just to do this, but I appreciate you reaching out and going, hey, dude, I'm in town. Let's record some content. I like to end with some fun stuff that has nothing to do with life insurance. So,
Okay.
I don't have my list in front of me, but I know a handful of the questions. So here
Okay.
we go. Are you a music guy?
Yes.
You are.
I like music.
Okay. Do you have a guilty pleasure song? What's the most embarrassing song you jam out to?
I don't know. Wagon Wheel by Darius Rucker.
Okay.
I love that song.
All right.
I'm way
I don't know
into it.
country, but
Yeah.
all right, I'll go with that.
Yeah, that's a
Are you
good
a
one.
movie guy?
Yes.
All right, so my man Elon Musk wants to move us all to Mars soon, right? I don't know how soon, but
Yeah.
imagine you're getting ready to pack, and he's like, "Dude, we got room for one movie, Trey. You get to bring one movie with you. Watch it for the rest of your life on Mars." What's that movie?
Field of Dreams.
Okay, that's
I
a
love
good
that
one.
movie.
That is
Yeah.
a good one. Awesome. And last one, you coffee drinker?
Yes.
Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Starbucks.
That's because you're out west. You guys even have Dunkin' out
There's
there?
a Dunkin' down the street.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it just opened about a year ago, but I'm not
Okay. I was with you up until then, Trey.
Yeah. Well, the problem is like the coffee's good, but the Dunkin' Donuts are not. The donuts aren't good. Like I'm a donut connoisseur.
You're upsetting a lot of people.
Yeah,
Right? You're donut connoisseur.
Yeah, I mean they're like.
But Starbucks doesn't have donuts.
I know, but the problem is I end up getting the donuts, and I'm like, oh, because they're not sweet enough.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of too cakey.
You a Krispy Kreme guy then?
Yes. Yeah. The coffee's not good there. Now, if you take a Krispy Kreme donut, put it with the Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Now we're talking.
Now we're good.
Dude, it's like you get a burger from Burger King and you go get some fries from McDonald's, right?
That's right.
Maybe some Wendy's nuggets. I don't know. Back when they had the yellow boxes, those were the good ones.
They were.
Yellow and red biggie. So, anyways, has nothing to do with life insurance, but I appreciate you coming in, dude, and I appreciate what you do for this company and what you bring to the table. You're a massive asset, and you're fun to be around. So, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for watching, downloading. Let everybody know who's watching. Someone wants to join your team. Are you on social? Where can they find you? What's the best platform to handle? Instagram is Trey, TRAY _ Honeycutt, HONEYCUTT. That's how you find me. There you go. Find Trey on Instagram. If you're with Family First Life, you can't join his team. No, that's right. That's right. We're talking to y'all that are not with us yet. The ones that are at another company watching this now, getting training, why don't you just come on over, reach out to Trey on Instagram, be part of his agency. He's an integrity partner, great guy. So appreciate you guys watching. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And you know where to find us next week right here on True Talk. We'll see you.